Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer based in Charleston, South Carolina, who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is honored to be presented again this year by Townsend Automotive in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. For more than 48 years, the Townsend family of dealerships has been a locally owned company built on service and connection with its customers. And their experienced team can walk you through the car buying process side by side, from test drive to service oil changes and beyond. Townsend goes through a rigorous vetting process to make sure that every pre-owned vehicle adheres to quality standards. And right now, there's plenty on the lot to choose from in various makes and models. Visit townsendhonda.com for current inventory, or if you're in West Alabama, stop in. Townsend Automotive salutes local entrepreneurs, from restaurateurs to podcasters, and they welcome you to be part of a community that does the same. Trowbridge in Florence, Alabama is a happy place. It's a place of cherries on top with extra whipped cream, a menu of ice cream flavors readable from any seat in the house, children's eyes lighting up to the phrase, "whatever you want," and a bowl of fresh bananas just waiting to be split. The stools and booths are retro teal color, not because the owners are being nostalgic, but because they've been that color since they were installed last mid-century. Don Trowbridge remembers that era, and at 85, he still comes in every day to visit, assist, and enjoy those ice cream smiles. He grew up in this building on Court Street, once jumped off the O'Neill Bridge into the Tennessee River to impress some friends on a hot summer day. And he spent years away working as a systems analyst. But ice cream and Florence always welcomed him home. He's the fourth generation, and his daughter Pam, the fifth generation, to tend to this 104-year-old business, a North Alabama summer staple. Welcome to the Southern Fork, Mr. T. Can I call you that?
Certainly you can.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me in for a hot cup of coffee, even though I've caffeinated up to have this early morning chat with you here in Florence, Alabama. This is not early for you. You get up early every day, right?
I do. I get up early every day.
And how about what time?
I'm usually up by 6.
That's probably because you got in the mode because your dad was a dairy guy, right?
He was that.
Yeah, and what time did he have to get up to get the milk out in the morning?
You know, I honestly don't know. I was a young child, but he had to get the milk delivered to the people on his route.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he got up at the crack of dawn.
And that's where you had the ice cream before you had the milk?
We had the ice cream before we had the milk.
This has been here since 1918. Do you remember how old you were when you first worked here? Or did you start to just kind of hang out?
I mostly hung out. I was born in 1937. We lived 2 blocks from this ice cream shop. So when I got old enough to walk and cross streets alone, I was able to come and go at will. And had done that even through grammar high school. I went to Kilby Training School, which is close, and would walk down here after school and just hang out and go home and play and whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's always been very accessible to me.
Mm. Well, I have to get one of the burning questions that I saved from our chat yesterday when we were hanging out and I was eating chicken salad sandwiches. Do you still eat ice cream?
I eat ice cream every day.
Okay, so
I take home ice cream in pints and keep it in my freezer.
Do you have a favorite?
I do.
Which one is it?
All right, my favorite right now is called blueberry cream pie.
Oh, yum.
It's got a little crusty taste like a graham cracker.
Like the edge
pie.
of a crunchy top crust.
Yeah, it's ground up all in it, so kind of a little gritty taste. Mm-hmm. But that's my favorite right now.
Well, that's good. You eating ice cream every day.
Every day.
Making things like cherry, strawberry, and chocolate sodas the old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way, right.
And then also there's something on the menu that I had to have yesterday afternoon called an oh my gosh. Will you tell me what that is?
Yes. When I first thought of the concept of a dessert, it was going to be a fudge brownie with vanilla ice cream covered in caramel syrup and then topped with huge amounts of whipped cream. So that's what we developed, and I had a naming contest. Mm-hmm. Had a little jar up on the counter, and I asked people, suggest your name, and if I pick your name as what I'm going to call it, you win a free one. Mm-hmm. And the name I chose was Oh My Gosh, because that's what everyone says when it's put down in front of them on the table. They say, oh, my gosh.
And it's a warm homemade brownie.
It's a warm homemade brownie about 3 inches square and about 1.5 inches deep. Mm-hmm. We put that in. We bake them every day and cut them into the squares. When one is ordered, we put the square in the microwave for a few seconds to warm it up, put a dip of ice cream on that, drench it with caramel syrup, and then cover the whole thing up with whipped cream and a cherry on top.
So I had that as my sugar intake yesterday.
You definitely had your sugar intake yesterday.
Chased with the cherry soda. But, the chicken salad here is legendary. The chicken salad sandwiches. And this is really a family operation. So you were telling me yesterday that the chicken salad was your mom's recipe, right? And she started making that when your dad was in World War II, right?
Well, when he went over to Africa and she was running the business and we didn't have any sandwiches at that time, just desserts. And the first thing she came up with was the hot dog. She had her own basic chili recipe and she got her friends to try the chili on a bun, mustard, and weenie. And the chili recipe developed over the months or however long it took. It's a synergistic chili, meaning everybody that suggested what else to do. Add this, take some of that out, add this, remove that, until it got to the point where her friend said, that's it, stop right there. So that's the way we make our chili, by her original recipe. The chicken salad, we boil our chickens in a combination of bay leaf and a carrot and an onion and a pinch of salt. We boil about 3 hens all day. And when they're done, we pour the stock off. Mm-hmm. And take the hens and pick all the meat off the bones. And then we run that meat through a grinder that's ground real fine. And mixed in with the chicken is celery. And when we get a bowl full of ground chicken and celery, we mix mayonnaise with it. Consistency is that it's easily spreadable on the sandwich.
And it's like a paste. There's so many different chicken salads out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's more like a paste. It's not thick with chicken, whole chunks of chicken. It's been ground and run through a kind of a shredder. But that's our number one seller, followed by the hot dog.
Well, you also have a sandwich that you told me a story about, and I'm a North Carolina girl. So I grew up when Andy Griffith was, it was in reruns, but Andy was still mythical in North Carolina at that point. It still is today, but anytime you could turn on a television in North Carolina, you'd see Andy Griffith. And there's a connection to one of the sandwiches on this menu, right?
Yes,
the banana sandwich?
Yes, there is. George Lindsay, known as Goober, went to University of North Alabama and would come into Trowbridge to eat lunch, and my mother would be on the cash register. And Goober would ask Mother, said, Miss T, how about making me a banana sandwich? You got a bowl of bananas there to make banana splits with. Could you make me a banana sandwich? And she had never made one before, so she said, hey, tell me how you want it. He said, toast the bread, put a little mayo on it, take the banana, slice it up so it goes on the bread, cut it in diagonal so you have two triangles. And that was the beginning of banana sandwich. Other people saw it being served and said, I want one too. Mm-hmm. So now we show a banana sandwich on our menu board. And it's all because of George Lindsay.
And was he okay with you calling him Goober?
Oh, yeah, he loved it. He brought, on McHale's Navy, what cannot remember his name, but he brought
some other actors in.
Another actor in, and they ate. And I got to meet this fella, and George brought most of his out-of-town guests in for lunch.
That's great. That's great. Well, this is an interesting place Florence has been your home your whole life.
It has. I grew up here. When I graduated from college, I went to work for Reynolds Metals Company, Carver County, and I worked there. Became a computer programmer and a systems analyst. And at one point, they asked me if I would move to Richmond, Virginia, their corporate headquarters. Mm-hmm. So I did, and I was the Mill Products Division systems analyst. In 1980, I think it was 1980, Mother called me and said, look, I'm getting too old to do this stuff. What are we going to do with Trowbridge's? I said, Mom, I'll just retire from Reynolds and come on home and buy it from you. She said, son, but you hadn't got any money. All your ex-wives got all your money. I said, yeah, you're right there. I said, if you can hang on 1 year, the year of 84, retire from Reynolds, go to Saudi Arabia. I knew a friend over there that had connections that I could contact. And the year of 84, January of 84, January of 85, I spent in Saudi Arabia as a programmer and systems analyst for Aramco. Mm-hmm. In 85, in January, I came home and paid her a huge down payment and then paid her out of the profits for several years until I paid it off.
And so you came back home to ice cream.
Came back home to ice cream. Mother gave me one piece of advice in the very beginning. She said, son, it's not broken. Don't try to fix it. I said, yes, Mom. So she was right. We kept it pretty much the same. I've added different pictures on the walls. First thing I did, though, was got an electronic cash register that would tell how much change to give back, would automatically figure the taxes. She had an old crank one that she had to look up the tax table and add them to the amount that was on the ticket. But I did change that. I wanted something that was going to be easier to operate on my employees, when they wouldn't make as many mistakes giving change. It tells them how much change to give.
But the machinery and the decor is pretty much...
The booths, the tables. At one point, she replaced these booth tops. They're white now.
The Formica.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They were, like my first table up there, it's the same size, but it's
not like the light wood color here.
And the high school kids love carving their names in.
Oh.
And when Mother had these new booth tops changed out, she said, be sure and save me all these old booth tops with everybody's names. And when they brought the new ones, she said, where's my old ones? And said, oh, we forgot those. We'll go back and get them. So they came back. They called her and said, we just can't find them.
Oh.
And one of the Rickards, the Rickard family helped start this business and had worked here. He took it upon himself to go up to Savannah, Tennessee, to the business, and he found 2 of them.
Excellent.
One of them is sitting up there in the front as the front table. I've got the other one at home.
That's excellent. At least you got 2 out of them.
Got 2.
That's wonderful. So coming back here, I think a lot of people wouldn't know, meeting you today, Mr. T, that you've traveled the world with your work. There's all kinds of layers in places like this, histories like that, your personal history. and then the histories of the people that come in to this place. What has really coming back to Trowbridge's and owning it given you to your life? You mentioned that you loved when grandmas come in. Remember that? You told me that yesterday when grandmas come in and sit. Will you tell us that story?
Yeah, my grandmother would come in and sit at the back table if it was empty. And when the 5-gallon cans of ice cream were scraped down and changed out, she would inspect the empty ice cream can and make sure that the girls had scraped all of the ice cream out of it. She didn't want anything thrown away. She was Pennsylvania Dutch.
And then also, too, this is a place where people have been brought as children, but they also bring back people, right?
What I really love to hear the most is one of these little blue-haired grandmothers bring her grandchild in and sit up at the counter stools and overhear her saying, "Honey, when I was your age, my grandmother brought me in here and we sat at these same counter stools." Mm-hmm. That really pleases me.
If you had to explain Florence to somebody, I'm sure you had to, because working away from it for all these years, people go, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" How would you explain Florence today?
Florence is a friendly city. Florence is a University of North Alabama city. Right across the river is the recording capital of the world.
Mm-hmm. Nashville might disagree, but
Muscle Shoals Sound would argue with them.
That's probably pretty true.
But everybody in Florence basically doesn't know everybody by name, but is familiar with everybody. There's no bad blood, no feuds, no fighting. Mm-hmm. And
everybody likes ice cream for the most part, you think?
Everybody likes ice cream. I was sitting here yesterday waiting on you to come in. A gentleman sitting where I'm sitting now in the back booth got my attention and said, "Sir," said, "this is a unique place." And I agreed. He said, "Yeah, it's unique because you can stick your tongue out and nobody's offended." And he was holding an ice cream cone. He stuck his tongue out and licked it.
Well, at this stage, what happens next? What's making you hungry? What keeps you coming in here? You're in here every morning at 8 a.m., Pam said.
Yep.
What keeps you coming back?
I do not look forward to retirement. I don't look forward to staying at home all day watching TV. This is a place that gives me pleasure to come and sit and work and talk to people, meet new people, watch our employees work, help them when needed. It just keeps me alive. I turned 85 in January, so I'm past retirement age, but I'm not going to retire.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, especially if you're eating, what is it, blueberry cream pie ice cream every day. You got to come in and get your fix.
I keep a pint at home, so when I get an empty pint, I bring the used container back to save money, wash it out, and fill it back up. I don't get a new container.
I wouldn't either.
I got a little of my grandma in me, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Do you eat chicken salad, or you switch it up for white bean day?
I eat chicken salad most every morning. I'll take a couple of scoops and put it on a plate and just have the chicken salad by itself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is good. I'm telling you, it is really good. That's really in my blood. That was like the Southern food that I still like. If I see chicken salad on a menu, I pretty much have to try it. Anywhere in the country, for sure. And I like so many types of chicken salad. I like the chunky. I like the ones like yours yours is really old-fashioned smooth paste. But there's ones with walnuts and grapes and all kinds of, I like them all.
Yeah.
I like chicken and mayonnaise, I think is the operative word. So what's one aspect of your personality? I look at that picture of you that was in 1960, and that's a Chevy Impala. You got a white T-shirt, a little rolled up cigarette dangling from your mouth. Yeah. Looking pretty strapping and pretty sure of himself in that picture. What is one aspect of of your personality that really matches with this job?
I guess I would say watching people enjoy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
People will come in here and have so up to that point had a bad day and be frowning, and when they leave, they're smiling.
Yeah. And you get to talk to them and hang out with them a little bit.
Yeah.
So is there anything keeping you up at night? Is there anything worrying you?
Everybody's got worries.
Yeah. You want to share one of them for us? Just one?
Well,
No?
no.
No. Well,
Everything's going to be all right because God's in control. And everything's exactly the way it's supposed to be. If it wasn't, it'd be different.
All right. Well, we'll just go with that.
Okay.
So, and I do this for every guest on the Southern Fork. I have what I call a magic picnic basket. So in this picnic basket, I can bring you anything that you've ever had that you want one more taste of. Like for me, I want my Granny's fried okra cold the next day because there's nothing like it. And that changes every day, right? Something really comes into your mind. I can source for you. I can go anywhere in the world and get whatever you want. And I can cook a little bit, but I'm probably not going to make my chicken salad today. I can go head to head with you when it comes to pimento cheese, though. So
Okay.
It's a Muscle Shoals kind of Nashville rivalry that we probably could have. So I would love to bring you some of your favorite things. So what are some of the favorite bites or favorite foods that you have besides ice cream?
When I go out to a restaurant, my first choice is baby back ribs.
Baby back ribs.
Right.
How many wet naps do you need?
Several. They're messy, but where I go, they just pull right off the bone real easy. Very seldom do you have to pick the bone up and gnaw the meat off. It just pulls off real easily. That with potato salad or a sweet potato loaded, that would be my favorite meal.
That is really, really good. Any dessert other than ice cream?
I rarely eat desserts at restaurants away from here.
Yeah. Well, you have an ice cream diet, so you might not need it. Now, if you were switching it up, like I love a vanilla. I love vanilla ice cream.
Vanilla is the number one seller. It's most popular, I think, throughout the world.
People act like vanilla is basic, but it's really a complex flavor.
Basic top ice creams are vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, and I want to say orange pineapple, but we are the inventors of orange pineapple, so we'll
maybe mint chocolate chip.
Well, I'm not too fond of that one.
Yeah.
I do like our new flavor. It's called Smoky Mountain Fudge. Chocolate ice cream with bits of fudge mixed up in it.
Well, that's not going to be bad. How could that be bad?
It can.
Well, if people want to learn more about Don Trowbridge and Trowbridges in Florence, Alabama, as you always get to hear, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. I'm going to have links there as well as images so you can see the face behind the voice. Was here yesterday at 8 a.m. and he's here today at 8 a.m. and he'll be here tomorrow at 8 a.m. If you like what you hear, I love going down the highways and byways of the American South to find the wide range of culinary voices that make our region so very special. So the best way to make sure that these stories come to your favorite podcast app is to make sure and subscribe. And if you like ice cream, maybe this is the episode to share with a friend. Thanks so much for taking the time to see new technology today and sit on the chopstick mic with me. I really appreciate it, Mr. T.
Well, thanks so much for coming in.
It was a sincere pleasure. Worth driving from South Carolina for. Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. You'll have to excuse me a little bit today. I'm pretty fired up. I have had an inspiring week. Not only in editing this podcast where I heard Mr. T actually just talk about how He sees the work as more than just ice cream. He really sees it as placemaking, although he wouldn't use that word. He's really making a place to allow people to come and spend time together and have a moment of happiness. And he's carrying on a legacy from his family. But it's not just this podcast. I feel like this idea of purpose, of knowing why you're doing something and kind of committing to this internal idea that is somehow bigger than just the task, bigger than just yourself, is really continuing to show up in my life. I recently was involved in Fab Charleston, which is a wonderful food and beverage, female-focused food and beverage workshop here in Charleston, South Carolina. And it might be based in my city, but it is definitely of a national scope, and being around 350 attendees and 70 speakers who really understand that the work that they are doing, they have meaning to it beyond just the task, is a super inspiring thing. They were there investing in their own future, in their own work, and wanting to become better or more engaged and learn new skills. But also, they were expressing what their purposes were, either through building community through their restaurant space, expressing themselves and their cultural identity creatively through their work, or actually cooking to nourish people, to comfort people. And that was wonderful to be around. There was also the James Beard Awards. You've heard me mention the term James Beard nominated a lot if you listen to this show. And I've had a wonderful opportunity to interview so many James Beard nominees and winners during my tenure here at the Southern Fork. And I'm 280 plus interviews in now. And so I'm really starting to see some larger themes. I'm starting to learn from all of my guests. I'm hard-headed, so it took me a while. But one thing that I have really learned is that the people that are doing this work at this high level that get nominated for a James Beard Award, whether you feel like the awards are political or you think that they're irrelevant, nevertheless, this is a particular caliber of restaurant and chef and culinary professional that really gets nominated for this work and for their work. It is about that idea of purpose. They understand that sometimes, it's a Thursday morning at 11 and the farmer has not shown up at the back door with the food that you thought you were building a special around, and they have to double down on that purpose. They have to dig in deep, and there's something to dig into when you have purpose. And that's really why I like, that mantra of my show, Let's Dig In. And I gravitate toward people that have that kind of work ethic because they have something to dig into when the going gets tough. And the going does get tough. I'm also at the same time in the middle of all of this, I'm trying to share with you this kind of idea of purpose that's showing up in my life. I'm reading The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson, and not only would I highly recommend this book, but it's simply breathtaking. It's like no other nonfiction book that I've ever read, and I love nonfiction. And it's about the Great Migration, and I am in awe. I've been in awe from the first page and really riveted, but I'm in awe of the amount of research and focus that it took to even research this book, not to even mention the fact to write the research out in this most beautiful fashion. And it's more than 600 pages. And I think about Isabel as a writer and how she must have had such a focus and a purpose, because you're digging yourself out of this research and trying to organize it for a reader. You really, really have to dig deep creatively to make that happen. And so I I just want to share that with you. I'm glad that for me, this work that I'm doing here at the Southern Fork and also in my food writing has a purpose. And it's been a long time for me to accept that idea, because having a purpose and owning that you have a purpose is actually a pretty vulnerable place to be. What if Isabel wrote all that and somebody said it's too long, you need to make this into 4 volumes, or she confused herself? I mean, if I were writing a book of that magnitude, I definitely would have a lot of self-doubts throughout the process. Purpose is vulnerable because you have to stake your claim on something. You have to commit to something, and you can fail. And I failed in public on this show many, many times. So I've also had people say, man, I'd love to have that job. You just run around, eat, and talk about it. You've got a dream job. So I have discounted what I am compelled to do, which is record people and ask them about their work and help them weave their own stories about their own work. And that is my work. But I am so glad that I am here with you, and my purpose will always be kind of part of my process. But that process is really more private. It's for me as a creative, but the product is for you. And just like Mr. T's ice cream, I hope it makes you smile a little bit today. Thanks a lot for listening, especially this week with this long rant, and I will talk with you next week.
You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you going to eat all that?